What's up, you guys? What's going on? Keith B Dixon, commercial photographer. Hey, look, I got a lot of good stuff that I'm going to basically talk about today. Hey, if you're interested in starting a studio or opening one or joining one, you definitely want to tune in for this. You definitely want to hang on. I'm going to talk about 10 critical areas that you guys should definitely be taking a look at before you make that leap, or I'm going to say that investment. So it's going to be a 10-point action packed stream today. So my name is Keith B Dixon. I'm a commercial photographer. This is my 18th year in the business full time, and I have a small office here in Hayward, California, and I mostly shoot headshots out of here. And there's a commercial studio not far from here that I do a lot of the bigger jobs in, if need to be. And most of the work is done on location. So, like for instance, this coming Wednesday, I'll be shooting on location in San Francisco. So, um, definitely, definitely ingrained in this business. So, hey, look, before we get started, I got some notes over here, um, so we can keep it focused, right? Keep it tight, right? Sometimes I'll deviate a little bit, tell some backstories and things like that. So get ready for that. I keep it to the elevator speech though. Um, so let's talk about the first point. Should you do a studio? And here's the quick answer. And I'm going to tell you, I got answers for you. I don't know if they're going to be the right solutions for you, but they're going to be answers, right? The solution is really going to depend on you. And the thing that I want to tell you is if you're thinking about a studio, you should consider your product, right? Your product and your reach into that market. Um, what are you shooting? Family? Are you shooting? Uh, what are you portraits? What's weddings? What's going to be your thing? And um, do you have enough reach to sustain the cost of a studio? So, for instance, let's say you shoot family portraits. Do you know enough families willing to pay you enough money to justify that cost? And that's what's going to be really important to understand. The idea of having a studio is a glamorous one. I'm gonna use the word fashionable, um, but at the end of the day, it comes down to the numbers. And do you have the numbers, and do you have the access to sustain it? And that's what it ultimately comes down. So, to answer your question about should I open a studio, those are the questions that you have to answer for yourself. Okay. Second one is cost. Cost is really important. It's an important factor because it's the first thing that's going to sink you and sink your business, right? If you're spending more money, this is obvious accounting, right? Obvious numbers. If you have more money going out than money coming in over a long period of time, you're just not going to be able to sustain your studio. It's just not going to happen at any level, right? It could be at a high level or low level. Maybe you invest $1 million. If you're not bringing money back in to cover those costs, you're just going to constantly be at a loss, and that's going to be painful. If even at a low level, let's say you're doing a $50,000 a year studio, you're only bringing in $20,000, right? It's just not going to work out. And the thing that I want you to really understand is when we're looking at cost, as prices go up, right? Your revenue's got to kind of keep pace with that, or you're going to fall behind. You're going to be behind the eight ball constantly. You're not even going to know why. And I attribute that a lot to just the product and marketing. Are you reaching the market that can sustain your cost factors, right? What are your cost factors? How do you have them figured out, calculated? Those things are going to be super important when considering whether or not you should open a studio. And I'm going to give you a resource to really measure that, and or not measure, well, measure it too, but measure it against other studios, and also something to give you a guideline as to what you should pay attention to. So I'm definitely going to share that information with you. Okay, selling. Okay, this is going to be a little painful for some of you people. Um, if you can't sell, probably not going to be successful, right? You have to be a photographer who can sell. And there's a write this down. I'm going to give you a second to just kind of get your pen together. And if not, if you missed this, you can always just go back and rewatch it. Fast forward through. Glengarry Glen Ross. I'd advise you highly to watch that movie. Glengarry Glen Ross. Alex Baldwin. It has just a host, Jack Lemmon, a host of actors. And it's about selling. They're selling a dream to people. And there's different characters in the movie, strong characters, weak characters, characters in the middle, unethical characters, and they're all selling land. So it's a very interesting movie, and I'd highly advise watching it before you take the plunge on a studio, because selling, ABC, always be closing, is one of the most important things you're going to do in your business is sell. You're going. Matter of fact, photography is a very small part of what you do in a business. It's a very small part, right? 20%, 80% selling, because you got to get people through the door to keep the lights on, to pay the bills, right? Your cost associated with your studio is going to go up every year. Every year. So you've got to keep pace with that. And if you're not selling or marketing, it's probably not going to happen, right? If you don't have insight or lines to people that can get you jobs, you're not going to be very successful with that. I'll be the first one to tell you, right? But if you do have that, you're going to take off, right? And you're going to be able to sustain a continued growth. And that's kind of what's important here. So keep that in mind, you guys. Make sure that you have a good attack plan. Product. Product is super important. The type of product, the quality of your product, does it fit the neighborhood or the demographic that you're in? Does it fit the demographic that you're in? That demographic has got to be income oriented. So if you're opening a studio and you want to sell $1,500 portraits, you have to have access to people that can pay that type of money. Or it doesn't have to be 15. I'm using big numbers. We have to think big here, right? Maybe you're in a community where people just need shots of their kids, their babies. It's real simple stuff. Maybe the median income there is about $50,000 per family. You can still provide a service for that. You just have to create your pricing around it. You're not going to charge $1,500 for a portrait in an area where the median income is $50,000. It just doesn't make sense. So keep that in mind when you're setting up shop. Where are you setting up shop? What's the median income in that area? And how are you going to market to those people? Is that a viable product? Because I live in California, in Northern California, and it's a whole different ball game than being in Ohio. At the end of the day, it's how you identify your market in the ABCs at the end of the day, right? It really is. So keep that in mind as you venture out and you start to explore the ideal. See what's going on in the neighborhood. Do a demographic search, as to what's really in the neighborhood and what people are buying. Maybe they're not buying photography in your neighborhood, right? That's a reality. You gotta location, marketing 101, location, right? Think about McDonald's and Jamba Juice and all these. You see where they set up shop, right? For their product. Their product fits a demographic. McDonald's, their product fits a demographic. And when you think about McDonald's, they're always off a freeway, a well-traveled freeway. They're generally in medium income neighborhoods, right? You don't see McDonald's in high-end neighborhoods because people aren't going to go there. They're going to go to the higher end shops, right? Think about it. It's really that simple. Jamba Juice. They're generally in strip malls, right? So keep that in mind as you venture out there. You don't recreate the wheel, right? A place to shoot. I don't really know what to tell you about that. I mean, I hear that a lot. I just want a place to shoot, hang my work. No. When you take on a space, you're taking on a space to create profits. You want to create profits. If you're in business, your number one goal is to, one, break even. Your number two goal is to be profitable as a business, right? Profits are luxuries, people. It is. A profit is a luxury. If you can turn a profit, you're doing something really good, right? But if you can break even, you're also doing good business because you made money, you spent money, and you made money. You made your money back, That's good. Now you got to take it to the next level. So if you're thinking about just opening a space just to shoot, I'm going to tell you not to do it. Don't do it. Don't waste your time. It's not a good ideal, right? You can rent out a space for that. Matter of fact, that's going to be a lot better because here's what's happening, right? You rent out a space, you're going to be on a time constraint, which means that you have to go into the studio really focused on what you want to achieve. That's going to help you, right? A lot. So keep that in mind as you venture out. All right, I got my notes over here, so I'm just kind of looking at my notes. Benchmarking. Let's talk about benchmarking because I said I was going to help you to achieve some really good. I was going to help you achieve. I'll just teach you something. I belong to a professional organization called PPA, Professional Photographers of America, and every year they benchmark studios on a retail level and the home studio. These home studios are more professional studios, but they benchmark them. They include them as well. So I hate to say home studio because these home studios, these people may have went out and bought a house in a neighborhood or something and built a studio there. They're pretty elaborate, but they are home studios. And every year they talk about people. They release a survey and they talk about the results. And from that survey, you can see what people's costs are, and their marketing expenses, all that kind of stuff. And it's people submit it anonymously, and it's a beautiful thing because on the average, most studios will do 150,000 a year. That's a pretty good benchmark. The difficulty sometimes is we just don't know the location because some areas do better than others, and it may not be a studio. Maybe it's maybe you're just a mobile photographer. You're working out of your home, you're shooting on location. You could still make $100,000. You could be a wedding photographer and you could be doing 400. I was in a co-op once with a guy who's doing $500,000 a year as a wedding photographer. Right? He's charging $10,000-$15,000 per wedding. That's a reality, right? But he's working out of a co-op. So keep that in mind. It's a little evasive in terms of the information, but it'll help you to gauge exactly where you need to be, and that's what's important. So before you go out and you make that move, the thing that I definitely want to tell you is if you're going to start a studio, obviously you're thinking about scaling your business up, from where it is. And that's important. Scaling is very important in any business. I mean, we can take photography out of it and just, plug in anything. We want to scale as business owners. We want to grow. And that's what scaling is. It's just growing your business beyond where it is. And studios can do that. There are studios that do $1 million a year, right? Gross. Once you get into that type of environment, you've got salaries and things that you're covering. You're still going to probably pull away with maybe, if you're lucky, you can get $100,000 in your pocket, right? And then the cost is all the other costs can be allocated back to the studio. And I'm talking about just your paycheck, right? Your profits, that's another story. So keep that in mind as it's food for thought, right? You'll be able to pay yourself a nice salary. Maybe your employees who work with you, that's going to be a whole different situation. So that's scaling up really large where you're doing a $1 million studio. A studio that's grossing $1 million or close to it, 700. Usually, and I think in this economy, I'm going to say realistic. You're just doing gangbusters or studios in New York. Maybe you're doing 750 to 800. 750 to 800. They're selling a lot of product on the back end. There are some anomalies out there that are doing $1 million. There are some photographers out there doing $1 million. Those are realities. But those are anomalies. Those are outliers. Those are people who have been in the business, for years, And just name, if you got Joe McNally, Sal Sincata, he has a real big operation. Those are some of the bigger giants in the industry right now that are pulling down. And there's more. Believe me, there's more. There's the not so obvious ones that are making a lot of money. So those are the realities. If that's your poison, that's where you choose to go. That works fine. That's a good option. You just have to figure out how to get there, and a lot of it is just going to be with your product and your connections with people. You're not going to just swing open a door and people are going to run through it. Everything is reputation and connections. That's a reality. Okay, you guys. So we've covered market. I started talking about market and the importance of it. Um, Having an identifiable market is very, 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 very important. I mean, I just can't put enough emphasis on it. It's super important. You have to be able to have or attached to a market that's going to sustain your numbers. I mean, without it, you're not going to be able to make it. And high or low level, maybe you're in a market that's going to produce $50,000 or $60,000 a year. It's a pretty good living in some places. Um, you've got to have clients that could sustain that from year to year, because as we move forward and prices inflate, as the old inflation thing, as prices inflate, so your revenues have to inflate as well, and you have to keep that in mind, you guys, as you move along. Okay. That's going to pretty much wrap it up for me. My name is Keith B Dixon. I'm a commercial photographer. This is my 18th year in the business, and you can find me on keithbdixon.com, keithbdixon.net, Event Photographic, and numerous blogs. I write. My Twitter handle is @KeithBDixon. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, my following is about 34,000 right now. It's pretty active feed. It's it's a good feed. So follow me. I watch it a lot. So if you comment or mention or do anything, I'll definitely get back at you. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook and just all those platforms. G plus, not so much, but I do watch it. Get at me. Okay, you guys, it's been good. I'm glad that you tuned in to watch this, and I just want to thank a few of my sponsors: Archon, Netgear, Lens Baby, DNP. Thank you guys for all the support, and I will be back on probably tomorrow doing another live stream on something. I generally review the topics at night and then announce them in the morning, and I look forward to seeing you guys again. Thank you.